I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to the Business of Intuition, where I coach, facilitate, train, and speak on the hard science and meaningful experience of intuitive leadership in business, so you can make better decisions, forge real connections, and creatively solve problems to amplify your impact and simplify your life. Welcome to the Business of Intuition.
Behind every good motivational book, motivational speech, going to a training, or hiring a coach, there is the expectation that maybe we can change, we can get better, we can become more successful, and however we want to define that. And then the second question that we always have somewhere in the back of our mind is, well, if that's possible, how do I do it? Well, my next guest on the Business of Intuition doesn't just give you the pat answer, which is, oh, of course you can change. Human beings have done it for the last thousands of years. But she actually has the science behind how change works. What happens within the subconscious mind that allows for the conscious mind to make new actions, new decisions, and new results. She also has some really good ideas about how people can actually take that transformative step. And when you think about coaching as a practice, which has now been around for, about 32 years or so, it really has a very positive, powerful effect on businesses when you create a coaching culture. But problem that we often run into is that the coaches that we have hired don't have the training, the background, and don't walk the talk of the work that they're trying to have others do, such that the leader is the same person who's the employee, the husband, the wife, the father, the son, that authentic individual who is not only the model of how we can transform, but gives us the tools and the process and the support in which to do it. So our next guest on the Business of Intuition has some really, really good insights. And our conversation could have lasted 2 hours, but we had to cut it off after 45 minutes. Jenn Beninger is the Genius Unlocked founder and CEO of Genius Unlocked Institute, a board-certified company where she coaches, mentors, and transforms leaders' personal and professional lives. Through her thousands of hours of executive coaching experience, Jenn has refined the art of coaching others on how to delve into what's holding them back and guiding them to successfully live in their purpose by calling on their intuition. With her deep understanding of energy work, intuition, communication skills, and mindset work, Jenn is able to produce more breakthrough results than she or her clients could have even dreamed of. Achieving mastery is one of Jenn's core values, and it has been at the center of her education, training, and work, from Fortune 500 companies to holding executive positions in the coaching industry, managing teams of coaches, developing coaching curriculum, teaching business development skills, and running transformational leadership events. Jenn has helped coaches in nearly every area reach their full potential. Jenn has developed her genius and true purpose through combining her numerous accolades. Jenn boasts a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and is also a board-certified trainer in the Master Level in Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP. Thank you very much, Tony Robbins, for making that a very popular program many years back. NLP coaching, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, as a certified coach through John Maxwell, and a master Reiki teacher. Jenn Beninger on the Business of Intuition. So, Jenn.
Hi, Dean.
We just spent 25 minutes gabbing about all the things that we seem to share in common.
Yes.
And I was thinking, where do we start? This could be a 2-hour podcast episode, but we obviously can't do that. Let me start with your business around the desire to up-level coaching.
Yes.
Why do we need to do that? And how are you doing it?
Beautiful question. Thank you so much for asking, because coaching can truly, truly connect with the client where they can go inward and find those positive qualities and characteristics about themselves and release the identity that they've been suppressing, most likely since childhood. So now we do understand that therapy has an amazing place in our world. Absolutely. I went to school and I have a degree in psychology. And what we want for coaching is it takes someone who's functional in their life and it takes them to optimal. Okay. So if you're really in a space where you are like, I'm functional, I've got a few areas of my life that are amazing, and I want to become optimal. I want to operate in excellence. I want to manifest everything that my heart desires. And I want to know, number one, that I deserve it. Number two, I can maintain it. And number three, that it's going to create the life that I've always wanted. So if you can understand that coaching can bring that to you, then you can start creating an optimal life for yourself. Now, we're all put on this planet for this thing called the human experience, right? It's like we all get negative thoughts and emotions. We have trauma that has come up in our life before. We have situations that we don't understand how it's affecting us. And we become, for lack of a better word, and trust me, I'm the biggest guilty person about this as anyone on the planet, is we become guilty, or we become a victim of circumstance, right? It's like, oh, I was married for 25 years to an alcoholic, and it took me to understand myself and what I deserve, and really tapping into my intuition and using my intuition, that wasn't the life that I wanted anymore. So I was able to pivot out of that and create the life now that I have. And so with I did that all with coaching. Now, how are we up-leveling? We're up-leveling coaching by creating certifications. So coaches are confident. Coaches know why the coaching works. What are they doing? What is that doing inside the brain? So we're obsessed with how the brain works. So if a coach knows why what they're doing works, if they can have repeatable, long-lasting, permanent results, and that they can trust themselves to get their client through whatever they need to get through and not have to have gone through the same situation, then that will allow people to create the life that they want by tapping inside, going inside, and getting the answers. So that's why and how.
Okay, so
There's a lot.
I know there's so much to chew on here. Gosh darn. So I've heard this over and over again. So have you. There are people who have had a tough situation going through. Maybe they're young and they've gone through addiction. They've had some tough problems with family. And then they decide, I've gotten some growth and I really love it. And I'm feeling powerful for the first time in my life. Now I want to be a therapist.
Okay.
Or maybe it's a coach. Let's supplant that back and forth, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes the worst coaches shouldn't be coaches, meaning that sometimes we're trying to heal ourselves in our coaching when we really don't have the ability to do that yet. We need to get our own shit together before we can actually start. Because I've noticed this over the years and I want to get your thoughts on this as well, is that we're not a regulated industry.
Correct.
It's not, by and large. It's not like you pass the bar exam and all of a sudden you are a lawyer. Anybody can be a coach, and anybody can just simply put that on their business card and do their darndest to sell others on that service.
Exactly.
Now, it's a great opening for a lot of people to get into businesses, and it's a great opening for a lot of people to get into businesses, right? So there's some issues there. And we did a marketing company did some research for us about our company, and we found out that coaching is actually, as an industry, got a bit of a black eye of late because people have been told what they already know, and they're not getting help to translate it into action. We were pleased to hear that because that's one of the things we do. So what's your thought about this idea around coaching and being prepared for it, and more around this up-leveling discussion?
Beautiful. So one thing, yes, we are not necessarily regulated, like you said, like with the American Medical Association, American Bar Association. However, everything that we teach and everything that we believe in is based on a board certification. So if someone is to come to our company, they are going to be able to present, like if they come, they want to do ICF or somatic or neuro-linguistic programming or timeline therapy or hypno, we are all board certified, our company is, so that people can have that behind them. So what does that mean? That means that if they are certified from a board certification standpoint, there are ethics, there are curriculum, there is standards, and there is reviews, and you're only able to join the board at the particular level that you qualify for. So that's one thing.
Good.
The second thing is, yes, we completely understand that people can read a self-help book and think that they're a life coach, and that is a problem, and we understand that. So that's the other thing that's so important, is this is what we tell our clients. So I succinctly believe what you were saying is saying you can only take your clients as deep as you're willing to go. So if you are not willing to go into your stuff, as you called it, then you're not going to do anything for your clients. So and we call it a lifestyle, like a coach, truly a coach to up-level the life is being a coach is a lifestyle. I don't go and teach communication to my clients and then come home and talk differently to my teenage daughters. I don't go and teach perception is projection, which means, whatever's negative inside of you is projecting out negatively unless I practice it at home. So to be a true coach and have that certification, have that confidence, have that ability to go deep into your own stuff, is you also have to make it's your way of being. It's your life. It is not a job. Being a coach, a true coach, and how we want the world to see us is it is who you are. It is not only what you do. You have to practice what you do.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. And let's say now we have coaching that's within an organization. We're trying to create a coaching culture. You sometimes hear organizations say. Speak to that authenticity of who you are as a manager, as an employee,
Beautiful.
as a son, father, daughter, mother, is all the same person, and why that's important for an organization.
Okay. Beautiful. Love that question too. We do a lot of consulting and we do a lot of work in corporations as well. And so the reason that's important, number one, is now this is something that has been done on a conscious level a lot. So some of you might hear this. So what I'm asking is, if you guys have heard this before, I'd love for you to just open to say, how can I hear it differently? And how well am I implementing it? So maybe you do know what I'm about to say, but you're like, oh, I'm not implementing that. So think about your unconscious values. It's not that piece of paper where they're like, circle the top 10 things that are important to you. No. It's your unconscious values. Your unconscious values are your motivation. Your values are not stuff that you like or don't like to do. You have a value of something, you will be motivated to do it. Okay, so when you go into corporations, first of all, you need to align all the people in your corporation with the same values as the CEO, president, or the company mission. Because it's going to cause conflict if you're unconsciously being motivated for things that don't support the mission of the company. So every year, like our company, we have 10 or 12 team members now. Every year, my business partner and I say, what is the values of the company? And then we find out the values of all the team members. Those that match, stay. Those that don't, go. Or we can do unconscious work and align everybody's values. So number one, your motivation has to be the same. Doesn't matter if you're the salesperson with the lowest sales to the CEO. The company deserves to have the values. So that's one.
All right,
Next,
so hold on a second. This is good.
Okay.
I don't want to overwhelm our listeners here, because let's just unpack this a second. So unconscious or subconscious values run the show. Get it?
Yes, sir.
It's 95% of what's going on cognitively. Get
Correct.
that? 5 or 10% is what we think is actually running the show, which isn't. So how do we then get to what our mind can't access, which is that subconscious, unconscious value set? How do you find that in an individual and therefore align it to be able to be in congruity with the company?
Beautiful. So here's a shortcut way of thinking about what you just said. Your conscious mind is the goal setter. Your unconscious mind is the goal getter. So if your conscious mind and unconscious mind are out of whack, which means your motivation doesn't match what you want, you're not going to hit your goals. So that's the
Agreed.
Shortcut way of what you just said is you can set goals all day long, ladies and gentlemen that are listening. You've set goals and you've hit them. It's because you're in alignment unconsciously.
Yeah.
You set goals and didn't hit them. It's because you're out of alignment. So how do you find that out? So for the podcast world, there is a way to find out, and I can share it with you right now. And that is one of the things that we certify our coaches in to go in and do. So I'm going to give you this is you have to do what's called a mind dump. So it's this question, and I'm gonna say it quickly, Dean, for the purposes of this, and then I know your listeners can go back and hit pause and do the actual activity. You're more than welcome to do it, but I'm not going to give you the time I would give a normal person. So this is what you would say. So if you're so let's say for your company, okay? So let's say the CEO will say company X. So okay, CEO of company X, and you ask them fast, what is important to you about your company? And he'll spill out words. Blah, blah, blah. He'll empty a bucket. You ask that 3 times because you're getting deeper and deeper into the unconscious mind. So it'll be Dean, what's important to you about company X? You'll say it and we'll say, okay, great. What else is important to you? You'll get another bucket. Then you read it all back and I'll ask you again, Dean, what else is important? That is the deepest unconscious. Check
so
this
you're
out.
saying that the repetition exercise is the way in which we to pierce beyond the veil of the conscious to the subconscious. Yep. And that's where some of this starts to come out.
So then there's 2 more questions. So that is actually called the critical faculty. So we're getting underneath the critical faculty by doing this. You're absolutely correct. So then the next thing I'll ask you is I'll say, Dean, when you think about what motivates you in company X, what is the thing that you felt right before you were motivated? That's normally going to be, well, for me, it's always excitement. I don't know if you guys could figure that out, but I like to be excited.
Oh, I don't know. You got to up the energy a little bit there, Jen. I'm falling asleep here.
So now you're finding out, Dean, what do they feel right before they're motivated? They're excited. Now, then there's the next question. So you ask that a couple times, they'll give you a few words. Okay, like I said, you guys can pause this and go back and actually do this exercise. Now I am going to ask you a question. I'm going to say, Dean, is there anything that could happen that would stop you from being the CEO of company X? You're looking for their threshold. We do this hugely in relationships. So if anyone here, and relationships is work. You have a boss. Right. It's is there anything that's important to you? So lying, cheating, espionage, whatever comes up for them, stealing secrets, whatever it is, what would stop you? Then you say,
being in that role,
from that company existing. Yeah. So
for the company to existing.
Yeah. Dean, what would have to happen for you to not want to be the CEO of company X?
Okay. So
that you're finding out their threshold.
Those 3 questions you're saying are getting to the unconscious, subconscious value set.
Then there's one more step. Yes, that's exactly what you're doing. First, you're finding out what's important to them 3 times, 3 buckets.
Right.
Then you're finding out what motivates you.
Yep.
Now you're finding out what would prevent you from continuing. Then, so the next part of that question is, so let's just say you say lying. Okay.
Right.
Then you say, what do you want instead? And you'll say integrity. Great. So now you have, so this is the coolest part. This is why I love this. I had no idea this is what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited. This is all done with your intuition as well, ladies and gentlemen. So you turn the paper over. It's just a list of words, right? It's just a list of words. It's integrity and profit and money and, relationships. It's what's important to you about your business. You're just listing a bunch of words. Okay. So then you turn the paper over and you do what we call break state, and you look out the window and you wave at somebody, and then you go, okay, unconscious mind. When I turn the paper over, your unconscious mind quickly is going to order those words. So they're all out of order, right? Because you were just dumping, and you're going to find out. So
order of importance?
So you'll turn the paper over. I promise you guys, if you listen to the replay, super easy. You turn it over and you look at it. It is super easy. We do it all the time. And you just order them in whatever order is important. So you skim them and you're ooh, that's the most important. Okay. And you order them. Then you rewrite them in order. Your top 4 values, once you reorder them, that's all that matters to you in context of that business. So if you have profit at number 12, I guarantee you your business is not as profitable as as you want it to be.
So, all right, I love it. And my question is, should we, and can we change our values?
Yes. So once you know what they are and you're like, oh, snap, I want profit as number 2. There is a process which I could, but you guys already are like, what did you just have me do? So,
yeah, the brain is getting tired, but I get the fact that it's possible, but the
yes.
theory is there.
Yes, and it works.
This is what I want to clear up, is that I think a lot of people think that your values are there forever.
Nope.
And they don't ever change.
Nope.
Saying that your values can change intentionally.
Yes, sir.
And that I'm going to assume that that's how transformation happens, because you're not doing something different. You're changing mindset first, and then the actions align with that. So let's go back to the beginning. The task is really just the outgrowth of the value, or outgrowth of the subconscious mind, or the outgrowth of the mindset or perception or interpretation, or however you want to catalyze all that.
Yes.
All right.
So that's why you guys will do things, and I do it too. You will do things over and over and over again. This is how we got the cliche, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's called insanity, because you're consciously trying to do something different and you're not dealing with what's going on unconscious. Your brain is programmed, and until you look at what's going on down there, you can bang your head against the wall all day long.
All right, let me ask you.
You have to go there.
So it's sort of related to this idea about whether we change or whether we, can people actually change? Some guy that I'm working with, another part of our business, said, hey, I want to give you our free DISC assessment. I've done my DISC assessment, a few years ago. As is no surprise, of really high D and really high I. Okay, dominant, I'm very influential, got it. That probably is no surprise to anybody. Send it to my team members. They go, yeah, big surprise, D. Okay, no big deal. But my question is, are those assessments, and of which there are many, and I know they're not all the same, are they assessing the conscious mind, or are they assessing the subconscious mind, or both? What do you think?
Oh my gosh. You have now just become one of my favorite people to ever talk to for that question. It is the conscious mind. And yes, you can switch what you do by reprogramming the unconscious mind. But hold on here. But let me just say that with a caveat, because I just turned off a bunch of people. People were like, wait, what? Only, Dean, if it's a problem. If it's not a problem, don't worry about it. You're amazing.
So so antecedent to this, what's the problem that you're talking about? Give me, how did you get the problem?
I'll give you an example. Okay, so let's just, I haven't taken DISC in forever. So can I do that? Can I do Myers-Briggs real quick? Does everybody kind of know Myers-Briggs? Like,
yeah, I think that's an old standard but the question is, are we assessing because when I filled out these questions, like we all do, and sometimes we ask the same question, are we basically assessing the conscious mind or the subconscious mind? And you're saying it's the conscious mind.
Conscious mind. Yes, it's the conscious.
But if you're saying that 95% of what we do is based on the subconscious mind, so what value does a situation like this, Myers-Briggs, True Colors, all the other ones that are out there, what value does it have? What's running the show is not even showing up on the assessment.
Okay. How long do we have? Okay, I'm going to
I don't know. We're fine. I mean, we can always edit some of this stuff out, but this is,
okay.
I think this is fascinating.
Okay. I will do this. Okay, this is, you guys, unless you're super auditory, you're going to need to watch the video of this, because I'm going to do this little demo with my hands. Okay.
That's all right. Sorry.
I am so in love with this question that I cannot wait. Okay. So this is communication in a nutshell, but I'm going to use my hands and I'm going to, what have you. And then I'm going to answer this question. I promise you, I'm going to answer that question.
Right. I will let you nod.
So, great. Okay. So we have 5 senses. We receive 11 million bits per second in all of our senses. It comes and we see it, we hear it. You guys are listening. We call it toothpicks. I am throwing 11 million toothpicks at every single one of you listening to this podcast right now, every second. This is what your mind does. The information comes in, it goes into your brain. You delete, distort, and generalize the information based on your life, your values, your way you grew up, what order child you were in, what decade were you born in, what were your parents married, divorced, whatever. You've created these filters. And if you don't do any kind of unconscious mind or subconscious mind work, they're probably pretty dirty. They're probably pretty full of negative thoughts and emotions. So here's what happens. I'm throwing stuff at you. Your mind delete, distorts, generalized. You create a picture. Jenn's crazy. Jenn's brilliant. Dean and Jen are cool. Whatever you picture you've created. This picture is 100% dependent on the filters that the information went through. This is why I was married to a police officer. You think I know testimony, right? Where they said, I saw Bob, and somebody said Bob had a hat, and some people said Bob didn't have a hat. It's because they filtered their toothpicks. Guess how many toothpicks make up this picture? 134. I've given you 11 million. You only can take a picture out of 134. So here's how I'm going to answer your question. This picture creates your state. Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, happy, joy, love, contentment, whatever. So this picture determines your state. That state determines your physiology. That physiology spits out your action, your behavior. So all of this is done inside. It's your behavior that then gets you your results. So if you don't like your result, you have to go backwards.
Agreed.
If you don't like the result, you have to go, well, what was my behavior? Why was my behavior that way? Oh, it's because I told myself the story.
Your interpretation sort of sets it into play. Yes.
Right. So you're
based on the data.
So your 134, your picture is what's answering the question. It's not
in the assessment.
It's not the. So if you clean up we call it filter cleaners. We have a hashtag, it's called hashtag filter cleaners. If you clean up your filters, your picture will change and you won't have the behavior or the results.
So, all right. So you are saying though that an assessment is basically deriving the answers and ultimately the scores you get from the conscious mind. But you're also saying that your filters are also influencing the answers you provide.
Correct.
Based on bias, background, the 134 swings.
Yeah, it's your motivation.
It's your, okay. So, but none of those filters you're saying are subconscious.
Got it. Okay. So no, the filters are unconscious. It's the conscious mind that creates the picture, but by not talking to the unconscious mind.
All right.
It just makes an assumption. It's assuming, but it doesn't communicate.
Because I want to get too geeky here,
I know. I could geek out on this all day.
Let's find a cool tool and break it apart and put it back together again. Because I think the tools are only useful if it's going to help us get us somewhere. I'm not married to the tool. I don't care what it is. It's something I create. It's not about that.
Right.
But I guess my question is, if we are able to change the subconscious, clean it up, if you will, become more intentional on the conscious mind, would it not be true that if I took a DISC assessment at one point, or Myers-Briggs, did the work that I need to do to kind of change some of those subconscious, unconscious perceptions, that I would have a different result of my next assessment?
Yes. That's exactly, yes. That is what I would love for people to know. You are not stuck with what the Enneagram says you are, with what Myers-Briggs says you are. It's your conscious interpretation of what you can change in your unconscious mind. 1,000,000%, yes.
Do you find, though, that practitioners of these tools propagate the notion that you just are who you are?
Because yes.
Because it limits them from having to do any work to help change you.
And they are not so this is the bottom line. In my humble opinion, coaches are not coaches until they understand what tools they're using and how they're working inside the brain. Or inside the nerves. Like, if you do not understand why the Myers-Briggs works and why and how you can change it to help people, you should not be giving Myers-Briggs. I mean, I know I'm throwing stones right now. Yet, if you don't know why it works, This is why coaches can't get repeatable, predictable results because they have no idea why the tool works. If you know how the tool works, then knock yourself out. We teach Myers-Briggs and we teach what we call a meta program and value inventory, fancy words that just basically says we find what's unconscious. And then we say, is this a problem? So can I give one example to maybe see if I can give an example for myself? Okay, so
please.
Part of the Myers-Briggs is the judger and the perceiver. Okay, so the judger is the one who, early or, on time is 15 minutes early. And then the perceiver is if I show up 3 minutes after, I'm still on time. So that's basically it. So I take Myers-Briggs. I could not score higher on the perceiver side of the spectrum. I could not. Everything was a perceiver. I'm the biggest perceiver on the planet. Now, this is what you have to ask. This is what I meant about the problem. Well, how is that a problem? As a CEO of a multi-7-figure business, that is a problem. I cannot be running things when I'm 15 minutes late, 10 minutes late. I wait till the last minute. It's a problem. So what I had to do was I had to go in and do the work. And I can get all fancy yet. I said, look, I'm not okay with, I'm in that perceiver and people just have to deal with me. No, I'm going to go fix my motivation at the unconscious level. I'm going to reprogram, if you want to be all fancy. And I'm going to change the neurological connections in my brain that when I'm at work, when I am turned, when I'm, the CEO of this company, I am what we call a judger, which means I'm early, which means I don't wait till the last minute. I don't keep my options open because that's a perceiver too. We're like, I don't want to book anything because I got to keep my options open. I'm not identifying with somebody from outside of myself who told me who I am. It's a problem that I'm a full-time perceiver. So I went, fixed my filters when it comes to work. I'm on time or early. Well, early is a little hard for me, but I'm on time. I'm not late. I was 5 minutes early today. I was like, woohoo, right? I make decisions. You were there before quickly. I was. I make quick business decisions. I don't leave my options open. We do an international retreat every year. It's already picked and it's not till December. I switched what someone told me, some assessment told me I was a perceiver. I'm like, I was until it's a problem. But guess what? On the weekends, when I'm with my kids and my teenagers and my, having fun and hanging out, I'm not the rigid, like, we have to plan every second of every day. Like I do that at work. Then I can just switch on the weekends. So that's what I mean by you don't have to wait. People use it as a crutch. Some people use it as a crutch. And then some coaches who aren't informed on why that works, they perpetuate that and let their clients become victim of that circumstance.
The crutch is the tool, the assessment per se. Yeah. And it drives me nuts. This is my personal pet peeve, is to give people a style assessment, Myers-Briggs disc, you call it whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they just leave it at that. Like, here's what you are. Everybody take a look at it. Okay, now I have empathy for the fact that you are who you are. We maybe moved the needle a little bit. At least I can see why we're different and why you piss me off sometimes and why I probably am good to know. But like, you guys, we're missing the huge opportunity to talk about how we bridge the gap. That's what agility is all about.
So let me tie it back into what I just said. That was brilliant. Yes. So let me tie it into what I just said. So this is also somewhat of an unpopular opinion, is communication is the response that you get. And it's your responsibility to re-communicate. Why is that?
Right.
Because if you're giving somebody 11 million toothpicks, they run it through their filters, they get a picture, and they give you a response. Their behavior is, and the result is, oh, wow, how many of you have said, oh, I misunderstood? Well, it's your responsibility. It's not theirs. You don't get to yell at them and say, well, you didn't understand me and you're not listening and knit. No, people. That's the response they got from the information you gave them. You need to give them different toothpicks. So you're like, okay, so this is, yes, I did work on my marriage for a really long time. And then it was very amicable when we decided that we're moving on, but we would fight all the time. And I'd be like, you're not listening to me. And finally, I started saying, you know what? I said, let me try to communicate this in a different way because it's my responsibility. So I would say something different to my husband at the time, and I would get the result that I wanted. That is the power of understanding what's going on in the brain and understanding that you don't get to be a victim of any circumstance. I don't get to be a victim to an alcoholic ex-husband. I get to say, wow, look at what I was able to communicate. Look at what I was able to do in order to have the most amicable divorce. Like, the people couldn't believe it. So we're like, how did you have that?
You still have that possibility as to your own personal life that you can change your communication and be very good at that.
Yes.
And still not be marriage material.
Yes. Yes. We were together for 27 years. We met when we were 21 and 22. I just turned 50. I'm like, we are not the same people. Depending on when you listen to this podcast, who knows how old I am when you actually...
My point is that we can be responsible for our own communication, and we do have to own that.
Yes, sir.
And we can change the way in which we communicate because that's our job. But it's not our ultimate job for how they receive it, even though we might try a few times in which to, like, that what they do with it is their job. Think about that, though.
Yes. Yes, and. Let me say yes, and.
Okay.
Yes, and. Yes, and.
That's a good coaching technique.
Yes, and. Okay, yes, and they're responsible. Yet, if you can own the presupposition that the communication is the response that you get, and you don't get the response that you want, it's your job to re-communicate. So you just keep running them through their filters until you get the response that you want, or you say, we're communicating about this, and it's no longer serving what I want to say, and I want to know what are you willing to do. Then, if you really want to know, this is the advanced stuff, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I get it.
Do you know Carl Jung?
Yeah. We're world buddies.
Perception is project. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Me too. Perception is projection.
Right. So,
not that we have another hour for the podcast. So it's like, what if they're not connecting with your communication? So what Carl Jung says is whatever is unconscious inside of you projects negatively. So
and
if
I
you have
understand that concept. And I think most people can understand that as well.
And then whatever's positive connects. But that's how I got out of the communication is I went, instead of blaming and shaming him and making him that, I went inside and went, when I look at him, what does that represent to me? And then I cleaned up my stuff and it went away. So if you clean up your projections.
You just missed something really important. You said it went away.
Yep.
So what is the it?
Conflict.
So I get the conflict might be dissolved once you have a higher vibration of communication because you're taking responsibility for. I understand that. And you still might get a divorce.
Yes.
Even though that may not be your intent.
Yes, my intent was not to stay married or divorced. You're exactly right. My intent was to communicate. The result of the communication can be whatever it is. It ended up in divorce.
All right, I get it. So you're basically, the focus is not necessarily on
the result,
a set result. It's on the quality of the communication.
Yes.
All right, I think we got our main point, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, let me say one thing to that. Now that we got that, let me say one thing. This is what'll happen. This is what's so exciting. This is why I love what I do. Love what I do. This is why I certify in this level. Okay, here's what'll happen when you do what we just figured out, when we just made that circle. When you take responsibility for the communication,
yes.
When you go inside and clean up your negative thoughts and emotions and your projections and all this fancy words that we've been using all day.
Yes.
One of three things is guaranteed to happen with the person you are communicating with. And yes, I'm using strong words. Normally, I don't use universal quantifiers. I will guarantee one of these things will happen if you go inside and you talk to your intuition, get your learnings, do this. One, they will disappear from your life. Like they'll just stop calling. You've cleaned up. You're not projecting on them anymore. There's no more conflict. That's number one. Here's number two. Number two, you'll talk to them and you'll be like, they're invasion of the body snatchers. You're like, what? Who is this person? I had this, one of my clients had a conflict with her mom for 50 years, called her mom after she did the breakthrough. And she was like, my mom's been invaded by the body snatchers. I'm like, she's been abducted by aliens. She's changed. Or number three, they won't change an iota and you no longer care. You no longer get triggered. It no longer bothers you.
Okay.
One of those three things will happen.
I totally agree with you, Jen. I think you're absolutely right on. And I'm glad we got to this point because I was sort of wanting to take the audience along for this ride because I think that it is a big ride. Hang on tight, buckle up. But we focus a lot on the outcome. We don't focus on the quality of the communication.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because once you clean that up and okay. I think I want to ask you one other quick thing here before, again, this is a fantastic conversation. You said something about that you're not necessarily a fan of having people break out of their comfort zones, right?
That's right.
And in a way, what you're describing here in this level of communication could be perceived by some who are listening that this feels uncomfortable, right? There's a tremendous amount of accountability on my part to be able to communicate and continue to change the way I communicate. Meanwhile, I'm being lit up like a Christmas tree because he reminded me of my father or whatever else is going on, or my ex-wife, yada, yada, yada. That doesn't feel comfortable at all. How can you say I'm not a big proponent of having people break away from their comfort zone?
Love it. And I love this topic. And I like everybody's leaning in. I can see it and I can hear it because it always happens. When
Your
Jen
eyebrows
says,
got really big, by the way.
Stay in your comfort zone. Okay. So here's what you're saying. I'm saying stay in your comfort zone because here's what's.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Stay in your comfort zone. Why? Because all your shit, because you said it, I'm going to say it, because all your shit's in your comfort zone. If you go outside, it depends on your definition of comfort zone. What I'm saying is don't go do something unconsciously, do something purposeful. So if all of your stuff, if all of your shit is inside your comfort zone, the only way to get the life that you want is to clean it up inside your comfort zone. I didn't say your comfort zone was comfortable. I said your comfort zone is the space that you live in right now where you hide. And it's where all your unconscious stuff is. So if you, quote unquote, go outside your comfort zone, you're in denial, you're unconscious, and you're trying to prove yourself right, which is your inner ego, or your inner critic has told you you're not good enough, or your inner child is hurt, and your intuition is saying, Dean, don't go outside there and go do that. Look inside of you. What is truly going on? What do you not believe about yourself? What are these negative thoughts and emotions that you believe? What is the identity that you suppressed as a child?
So
and
I think
you figure that out.
You've got a definition that is different than how some would call comfort zone. You're not saying don't be uncomfortable, right?
Yep. You're exactly
You're saying stay in the space that is normally home and deal with your SHIT to be able to get rid of some of this stuff. So for example, I'm the leader of an organization, and what is scary for me is to not lead by consensus. It's actually to have a point of view and to be more of a visionary and more declarative around that. Let's just say that is uncomfortable for me. Answer how that fits into your model around comfort zone versus uncomfort zone.
Well, you said it actually brilliantly a minute ago when you said it's all about taking responsibility. If you're not willing to take responsibility, then going outside your comfort zone gives you somebody to blame shame outside of yourself. Staying inside your comfort zone is saying, I'm going to take responsibility for me. I'm not going to blame and shame myself. I'm going to say what worked, what doesn't work, and what am I willing to do differently? How am I willing to go inside, connect with my intuition, get my learnings so that the conflict disappears and my comfort zone expands.
Which might be uncomfortable to do.
Well, yeah, it's called the human experience.
Right. So yes. I think that's why I think people will say comfort zone, that sounds like I'm avoiding what's uncomfortable. I am sticking with the bucket of Haagen-Dazs ice cream and avoiding life and staying
Yes.
away from hard conversations and playing it safe. You're not saying that.
No.
All right.
No. So, last thing I'll say on the comfort zone side of things, you have, because it'll tie back to what we've talked about already. You have to check your motivation, ladies and gentlemen. If you are doing something out of a motivation that is to what you just said, stay stuck, to stay, denial, to stay head in the sand, that's when you're actually doing things that's actually outside of yourself. So we can even chunk it up that far. It's saying when Genius Unlocked and when Jenn says stay inside your comfort zone, we're saying stay inside of you. You go outside your comfort zone, you're going outside of you. You're looking for validation from gurus. You're looking for anything and absolutely everything outside of you. You're looking for validation, and you're looking for someone to blame and shame outside of you. So let's chunk it up there.
It's an interesting, provocative statement. And when you dig into it you realize it has a different meaning than our first interpretive filter.
Of course. That's called language. That's right. We want to redefine.
Jenn, I want to keep talking for another 2 hours, but I know we can't.
No problem.
But this has been fascinating. You do got to get a podcast, by the way. So would you please call Doug Sandler?
I sure will, and I will let you all know. I will have you, if not be my first guest, I will have you be one of the guests when we have thousands of listeners, because they deserve to hear from you as well, Dean.
Now, you've got some great, very deep and high energy concepts here that I think is very important. I really appreciate your time on this. Give us a couple of plugs about how we can connect to you, learn more about what you're all about.
Yes. So it's geniusunlocked.coach is our website. But more importantly, what I would love to do is if you guys would like to learn more and more about what we're talking about with intuition and how you can grow so that you can find that stuff inside your comfort zone, you'll see it in the show notes. We have a text and email challenge around meditations about connecting with your intuition. It'll be in the show notes, but if you text the word intuition, okay, they might have to edit this. I'm so sorry. My phone just died with the phone number.
No, it's
Can
okay.
we edit this part out? And then I won't say the phone number. That is so funny. Look, it just went white.
Yeah.
So I really apologize to your editor right now because he's like, oh, they were on a flow. But the phone number, I just totally died.
Right, let me go back to, so Jenn, how can people connect to you in the work that you're all about?
This is great. Thank you so much, Dean. So yes, we can be reached at geniusunlocked.coach. We are Genius Unlocked Coaching Institute. And what I would love to give all of your listeners is a free intuition challenge. You can, it's text and or email. So in the show notes below, you'll be able to see the link to sign up for it on an email, or you'll be able to see the phone number. You just have to text intuition to the phone number, and you will be getting one meditation a day. I would encourage you all, though, to listen to them in order, because it's going to take you on a journey and a path where you're going to be able to understand what are your unconscious motivations, what are some of those values that serve you or don't serve you, and actually how to get the learnings so you can expand your comfort zone. So everything we talked about, and it's called Unlocking Your Intuition Meditation Challenge, and the notes are below. Yes, you can find us on all the socials, but we really truly believe in connecting with the human experience, and we're so excited. And thank you, Dean, so much for having me. It's a great conversation.
It really was. I just actually signed up, earlier on this conversation, so I just got the email. It's very simple. You've got a video, it looks like, and I can't wait to watch it. So, Jenn, thanks so much for your time, your energy, your professionalism, and in making the world a better place. I really do appreciate your time on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Business of Intuition. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com.